There was a time in my life when I believed I had the power to influence someone else's destiny, not in a vague way, directly. I remember the situation clearly. There was someone whose life seemed to be moving forward, opportunities opening, things working out, progress happening in ways that were visible and consistent. And I was told something that changed how I saw everything. You can stop it, not slow it down, not interfere slightly. Stop it. At that time, I didn't question it because in the world I was part of, the idea that one person could affect another person's path was not unusual. It was presented as something that could be learned, practiced, and applied. So when I was given instructions, I followed them carefully, every step, every detail, because I believed it mattered. After that, I started watching, not casually, but closely. And this is where everything became convincing. Over time, things in that person's life didn't seem to move the same way. Opportunities that looked certain didn't go through. Plans that seemed solid suddenly changed. Progress slowed down. And in my mind, there was only one explanation. I caused this. That belief felt real because I wasn't just hearing about it. I was seeing what looked like confirmation. And once you connect your actions to someone else's outcome, it creates a very strong sense of control. I thought I had done something powerful, something real. But looking back now, I see something very different. What I thought was control was actually interpretation. Because at that time, I was not looking at the full picture. I was only paying attention to what confirmed what I already believed. Every setback became proof. Every delay became evidence. But I wasn't seeing everything else. And that's what I want you to understand today. Because what feels like control in the moment is not always what it actually is. What made it feel real wasn't just what I saw afterward. It was what I was taught before, because nothing in that environment was presented as random. Everything had a structure, a method, a sequence that made it feel intentional and precise. I was told that if you wanted to affect someone's path, you had to focus on them specifically, not generally, not loosely. Specifically, their name, their image, their situation. The idea was that the more clearly you could focus, the stronger the connection would be. And once that connection was established, you could influence what happened next. At least that's what I believed. I remember sitting there, concentrating deeply, trying to hold that person in my mind as clearly as possible. It required attention. It required effort. And because it required effort, it felt important. That's something I didn't understand at the time. Effort creates meaning. The more energy you put into something, the more real it feels. You assume that because you're focused, something significant must be happening. But what was actually happening was internal. I was directing my attention, holding a thought reinforcing an idea over and over again. And that repetition made it feel like I was doing something powerful. But here's where it becomes convincing. After doing all of that, I started watching that person's life more closely than ever before. Every small detail stood out. A delay that I might have ignored before suddenly felt important. A missed opportunity seemed connected. A change in direction looked like confirmation. And because I was already expecting an effect, I saw one. That's how the belief is reinforced. You are given a method. You apply it with focus. Then you observe with expectation. And expectation filters what you see. You don't notice everything. You notice what fits the idea. At the time, I thought I had teed something. But what I had actually done was tie my own perception to a belief. And once your perception is tied to something, everything you see starts to support it. After that moment, something changed in me, not in what I was doing, but in how I was observing. I started watching that person's life with a level of attention I had never given before. Not casually, not occasionally, but consistently. Almost like I was waiting for something to confirm what I believed I had done. And when you watch that closely, patterns start to appear, or at least they seem to. I remember noticing small setbacks, things that, under normal circumstances, I might not have even paid attention to. A delay in a plan, a missed opportunity, a situation that didn't work out the way it was expected to. Individually, none of those things were unusual. They happen in everyone's life. But because I was already convinced that I had caused something, I didn't see them as normal events. I saw them as proof. That's the shift that makes everything feel real. Because once your mind accepts an idea, it begins filtering reality through it. You stop seeing things as they are and start seeing them as confirmations of what you already believe. Every setback becomes connected. Every delay becomes intentional. Every change becomes meaningful. And the more examples you collect, the stronger the belief becomes. I didn't question it at the time. Why would I? From my perspective, everything lined up perfectly. I had followed instructions, and then I saw what looked like results. But what I didn't realize is that I was only seeing part of the picture. I wasn't seeing the opportunities that still happened. I wasn't seeing the progress that continued. I wasn't seeing the decisions that person was making on their own. I was only seeing what matched my expectation. That's how powerful focus is. It doesn't show you everything. It shows you what you're looking for. And because I was looking for evidence that I had control, I found it. Or at least I thought I did. But later, when I stepped away from that mindset and looked at the situation without that filter, something became very clear. Those events were not being caused by me. They were part of a normal pattern of life: ups, downs, delays, changes. things that happen to everyone. But when you attach a belief to those events, they stop looking normal. They start looking intentional. And that's how the illusion of control is created. Not through what's actually happening, but through how you interpret it. The hardest truth for me to accept came later. Not in the moment, but after I stepped away and looked back at everything without that mindset. I had to ask myself a question I avoided for a long time. What was I actually doing? Because if I didn't truly control anything, then what was all that focus, all that effort, all that belief really accomplishing? And the answer was not what I expected. I wasn't controlling someone else's life. I was controlling my own attention. That's it. Every time I focused on that person, I was reinforcing a story in my own mind. Every time I watched their life and connected events to my actions, I was strengthening that story. And over time, that story felt like reality. But it was built internally, not externally. I began to see how easily the mind creates connections when it is looking for them. If you believe two things are related, your brain will find ways to link them, even when no real connection exists. That's what I was doing. I was linking my actions to their outcomes, not because there was proof, but because I expected there to be. An expectation is powerful. It shapes what you notice. It shapes how you interpret it. It shapes what you remember. So instead of seeing a full picture, I was seeing a filtered version of reality, one that supported what I already believed. That's when something shifted in me. I stopped looking at it as something external that I had done, and started recognizing it as something internal that I had created, a pattern of thinking, a way of interpreting events, a belief that felt real because I kept reinforcing it. And once I saw that clearly, the sense of control I thought I had disappeared, because it was never there in the way I believed. What I had was influence over my own perception, not over someone else's destiny. An understanding that changed everything, because it removed the fear, not just of what I thought I could do, but of what I thought others could do as well. The moment everything truly changed for me was not dramatic. There was no sudden event, no confrontation, just a clear realization that I could no longer ignore. If I never truly had control over someone else's life, then no one else had that kind of control over mine either. That thought stopped me. Because for years, the belief went both ways. If I thought I could someone's destiny, then I also believed someone else could do the same to me. And that belief creates a constant sense of vulnerability. You start questioning everything. Why did this not work out? Why did that opportunity close? Is something being done against me? And once those questions begin, they don't stop easily. But when I understood that what I experienced before was not actual control, but interpretation, something shifted instantly. The fear broke because I realized that life already includes ups and downs, delays, changes, unexpected outcomes. Those things are part of a normal pattern. They don't need a hidden cause to exist. But when you believe there is always something behind it, you stop seeing life clearly. You stop accepting normal variation. You start searching for hidden reasons. And that search creates anxiety. What set me free was seeing that clearly, that I had been connecting events that were never actually connected, that I had been giving meaning to things that didn't require it, that I had been living inside a pattern of thinking, not a pattern of control. And once that understanding settled in, everything became simpler. I stopped overanalyzing every setback. I stopped assuming every delay meant something deeper. I stopped feeling like my life was being influenced by something unseen. Instead, I started focusing on what was real: my decisions, my actions, my direction. And that's where actual control exists, not in trying to influence everything around you, but in how you move through it. That's the truth I wish I had understood earlier. Because the belief that someone can control your destiny is powerful, but it's only powerful as long as you accept it. Once you see it for what it really is, it loses its hold completely. And in that moment, you take your life back. Understanding the truth is one thing, but breaking the pattern completely requires something more. Because even after I realized that I never had control over someone else's life, there were still moments where old thoughts tried to return. A delay would happen, and for a second, the old question would appear: is something behind this? That's how deeply these patterns can stay with you. So I had to learn how to deal with those moments in a practical way. The first thing I did was simple. I stopped jumping to conclusions. Whenever something didn't go as planned, I paused. Instead of immediately trying to explain it, I let it be what it was: a normal part of life. Not everything needs a deeper meaning. That alone removed a huge amount of pressure. The second thing I learned was to expand my perspective. Before, I was only focusing on what wasn't working. But when I stepped back, I started noticing everything that was working, progress that was still happening, opportunities that were still opening, things that were moving forward, even if slowly. That balance changed how I saw everything. Because when you only focus on setbacks, life feels blocked. But when you see the full picture, it feels active. The third step was the most important. I took responsibility for what I could actually control: my decisions, my effort, my consistency. Instead of thinking something external was influencing my life, I focused on how I was responding to situations. And that shift is powerful because it moves you from a passive state where you feel like things are happening to you into an active state where you are moving through your circumstances with awareness. I remember the moment this fully settled in. Something didn't work out the way I expected. In the past, I would have analyzed it, questioned it, maybe even felt like something was wrong behind the scenes. But this time, I looked at it differently. I asked, what can I do next? That question changed everything. No fear, no overthinking, just direction. And that's when I realized I had fully broken out of that mindset because I was no longer looking for hidden causes. I was focused on real actions. And once you reach that point, the belief loses its power completely, not gradually, but permanently, because you no longer see the world through that lens. You see it clearly. And clarity is what sets you free. If there's one thing I want you to take from everything I've shared, it's this. Not every closed door means something was done against you. That belief kept me trapped for a long time, because every time something didn't work out, it felt like there had to be a hidden reason. Something unseen, something intentional, something that needed to be explained. But life doesn't work that way. Doors close for many reasons: timing, decisions, circumstances. Sometimes you're not ready. Sometimes the opportunity isn't right. Sometimes something better is ahead that you can't see yet. But when you believe every closed door is caused by something external, you lose clarity. You stop learning. You stop adjusting. You stop growing. Because instead of asking, what can I improve? You start asking, who is doing this? And that question leads nowhere. It keeps you stuck. What changed everything for me was realizing that a closed door is not the end of your path. It's a redirection. It's information. It's feedback. When something doesn't work, it doesn't mean your destiny has been tied or blocked. It means you have an opportunity to reassess, to adjust, and to move forward in a different way. That's real power, not controlling outcomes, but responding to them with clarity. I had to let go of the idea that everything happening around me had a hidden cause. I had to accept that life includes uncertainty and that not every situation needs a deeper explanation. And once I accepted that, something shifted. I stopped fearing closed doors. I stopped overanalyzing setbacks. I stopped feeling like my life was being controlled by something unseen. Instead, I started moving forward again, with confidence, with clarity, with direction. Because I finally understood something that I wish I had known from the beginning. Your destiny is not something that can be tied by someone else. It's something you build through your choices. And once you truly see that, no closed door can stop you. It can only redirect you. And sometimes that redirection is exactly what you need. So where does that leave you now? After everything I've shared, after breaking down the illusion, the patterns, the beliefs, there is one final step. You have to take your power back, not in a dramatic way, not by fighting something unseen, but by changing how you see yourself and your life. Because as long as you believe that someone else can control your destiny, a part of you will always feel limited. You will hesitate. You will question your progress. You will second guess your direction. But the moment you let that belief go, something shifts immediately. You stop looking over your shoulder. You stop searching for hidden causes. You stop giving meaning to things that don't need it. And instead, you start moving forward again with intention, with focus, with clarity. I remember the moment this fully settled in me. It wasn't loud. It wasn't emotional. It was quiet, but it was firm. I realized that my life was not something fragile that could be influenced by every external idea or belief. It was something I was responsible for building. And that realization changed how I approached everything. Decisions became clearer. Actions became more direct. My thinking became simpler. I stopped trying to control outcomes and started focusing on what I could actually do. And that's where real progress begins. Because when you focus on your actions, your consistency, your direction, you create movement. And movement is what opens doors. Not fear, not overthinking, not assumptions. Just consistent, clear steps forward. So if you've ever felt like something is holding you back, like doors are closing for reasons you don't understand, I want you to remember this. You are not as limited as you think. Your path is not being controlled in the way you may have been led to believe. You have more influence over your life than you realize. But that influence only becomes real when you stop giving it away. When you stop attaching your progress to unseen causes and start grounding it in real actions. That's how you take your power back. Not by searching for what's against you, but by focusing on what's in front of you. And once you do that, everything begins to open again.